For all my life, I've had the sickle cell disease, so I'm urging everyone to join the Discovery Health channel and an in-depth look at all the research, the breakthroughs, and the inspiring stories to how people are living healthy and vibrant lives. People like me.
Sickle cell anemia, the forgotten disease.
Infinity Duncan looks as happy as any other 4-year-old, but her playful nature and seemingly boundless energy are deceiving.
The reality is, even though she seems healthy and she looks healthy and she can do things that every other child can do, she just isn't like every other little kid as far as health is concerned.
What makes Infinity so different is that at the age of 4, she has already experienced many health problems usually associated with adults. What's making her so ill is sickle cell disease, an insidious genetic disorder that is destroying the ability of her red blood cells to carry oxygen throughout her body. For Infinity's mom, Stephanie Duncan, coping with this illness is a constant struggle.
I'm really scared, but then at the same time, I'm trying to keep faith and I pray a lot, but it gets hard.
I was sick when I was born. You know, ever since I came out, they didn't understand what was wrong with me.
30-year-old Tion Watkins has sickle cell disease too. Much of the world knows Tion as T-Boz, the lead vocalist for the widely popular singing group TLC. Even though her sickle cell disease can be debilitating, she says she refuses to let it slow her down.
Yes, I get sick, but I don't let it take over me. You know, I stay positive in the hospital. I don't try to stay there, I try to get out.
For too long, it seemed as if little could be done to stop the ravages of sickle cell disease. For too long, too few in the medical community got involved in the fight. But today, there is new promise for the millions battling this disease. From a rock star like T-Boz to a little girl like Infinity Duncan, there is new hope that one day they will win their battle against sickle cell and overcome what for so long seemed to be a forgotten disease. Stephanie Duncan and her daughter Infinity are arriving at Fairview Hospital in Minneapolis, Minnesota. It is a painfully familiar routine. Infinity is only 4, but already she has suffered 3 strokes. Dozens of times over the past 2 years, she has been rushed here for medications, transfusions, and other treatments to ease the effects of her sickle cell disease. But this trip promises to be different. Stephanie Duncan and her daughter will spend the next few weeks in this hospital.
System that is much more forgiving. It is still possible that we'll find complications in Infinity Duncan and other patients receiving cord blood, but it's reduced compared to using bone marrow.
I just always ask her, do you want to do this? And I don't really think she knows, in depth exactly what's going on, but she knows the bottom line is a cure.
As the days of chemotherapy and radiation drag on, both the Duncans and their doctors remain optimistic, even though only a few dozen children in this country have ever been cured of sickle cell disease using bone marrow transplants. One of those children is 9-year-old Nina Herrera. She battled sickle cell disease all her life.
Hey, you want to play with me?
Like Infinity Duncan, Nina's disease got progressively worse until she too had a stroke.
One morning we woke up, she couldn't grab her doll, this when she was 5 years old. And we rushed her to the hospital, and what happened was she suffered a major stroke, which paralyzed the left side of her body.
I was devastated. It was very hard to accept. I knew nothing about the disease. I didn't know what it could cause. I mean, what she was going to suffer. I knew nothing about it.
We didn't know if she was going to make it from day to day. We didn't know really the extent of the damage that was done to her brain. It was a real traumatic time for us. It really was.
With few options and diminishing hope that their daughter would ever have a normal life, the Herrera's doctor told them about transplant research that might cure Nina. Research being conducted at Fairview Hospital in Minneapolis, the same hospital where Infinity is now being treated. For weeks, the Herreras say they agonized over the risks and rewards of the experimental procedure.
They had never tried it before, so there were risk involved. We were facing the possibility of taking Nina out there and losing her out there. However, it wasn't much of a choice. It wasn't much of a choice because Nina really had no quality in her life, and we had to take a chance.
It's a decision that, you have your child's life in your hands. And it's a decision you're making for her, and it's her life, and you don't know how it's going to turn out.
Despite the uncertainty, the Herreras decided to take a chance. To save their daughter, they decided to give up everything. They left their jobs and their home in Buffalo, New York, and moved 1,000 miles away to Minneapolis, where Nina would become the first patient to receive the experimental transplant.
That was probably the biggest day in our lives because we knew it was going to happen that day. We didn't know what the results were going to be. However, we were there and it was no turning us back.
Nina, your turn.
For 3 long months, the family waited. But in the end, there was good news. The transplant worked. Nina's diseased bone marrow had been replaced with healthy new marrow that now produces normal red blood cells. Nina is sickle cell free.
Nina, she's off all her medications with the exception of penicillin. She's not receiving any more blood transfusions. She's not having any more crises. There's quality back in her life. She can live the life of a normal 9-year-old child.
If it could happen for Nina Herrera, doctors hope it will happen for Infinity Duncan.
No more hospitals, no more blood exchanges, no more running there 5 times a month, and that's what she wants.
Today is the day everyone has been waiting for. Infinity Duncan is about to receive her transplant. It's a day that could change her life forever. It's a day that could offer hope to millions who suffer with sickle cell disease. It's a day that could make medical history.
When Infinity was diagnosed with sickle cell, all along we've just been waiting and hoping and praying that there would be something that would come up that would help her. So, yeah, I've been waiting for this. Okay, and I get to hold you, right? For as long as I want to.
As her grandmother holds her, nurses begin the final preparations for Infinity's transplant.
I'm hoping our prayers are answered and that she'll be okay and healthy, and the new marrow's gonna come in and take over, and sickle cell will be gone. Nobody is acting as if they don't expect it to work. So that kind of builds my confidence in it too.
You're the best picture taker.
With little more than a snapshot to mark the occasion, Infinity Duncan is about to make medical history. It's September the 29th, 2000. It will take less than 30 minutes for the cord blood to be transfused into her body. 30 minutes that could begin to change the lives of Infinity and millions of others.
Why it's so exciting is that this is really the first step, and this is the model by which to understand whether this therapy is going to work or not, and then we'll move it on to other patient populations. So in many ways, that these patients are really pioneers, I mean, in terms of us learning how to better treat patients in general with leukemia, other forms of cancer, other genetic diseases.
But Infinity didn't feel much like a pioneer.
It felt funny, and I didn't like it.
Over the next few weeks, it's hoped that the cells in this blood will migrate to Infinity's bone marrow, replace it, and produce healthy red blood cells. The process is called engraftment, but it is a slow process, one the Herrera family remembers all too well.
Every hour seems like 10 hours. Every day seems like 10 days. And I'm not sure that I can really find the words to put someone at ease at a time like that, because it's a very traumatic experience. And it's not easy to overcome. It's something that you have to go through. And every case is different, so you really can't tell her that her child's gonna be all right because you don't really know.
And, you know, on theory,
The Herreras were lucky. 12 weeks after their daughter Nina was transplanted, her sickle cell disease was gone.
She will not be treated as a sickle cell patient anymore, or
right.
will she?
No.
She won't?
No, no.
Infinity Duncan is receiving the same transplant procedure, but with one big difference. Nina Herrera was transplanted using genetically matched cells from her brother Christian. Infinity's transplant comes from umbilical cord cells that are not a genetic match.
We could find that there is some side effects, some toxicity. One long-term risk is that there's an increased risk of infection. And that's what we have to monitor these kids for the next 60 to 100 days after transplant.
Yeah, she's doing great. She's doing great. Yes. She is a very strong little girl. And I just know everything's gonna be all right.
The medical monitoring will begin tomorrow. Today is a day for optimism, a day for hugs, a day for hope.
How are you doing?
Well, this is the first day.
Hi.
This is your birthday.
Right now, I think this day's been a long time in coming. You're still dealing with that, I can tell, you know, both of you. And I think Infinity senses that, you know. Just all the months that we've been thinking about this and all that she's been going through. So, it's a new beginning.
A new beginning for us all.
Yeah.
She's setting a new standard. So this is now day 0 for the rest of her life.
She did pretty well in the beginning. We weren't seeing, she didn't get the graft versus host disease at all. Her fever went up, but it came back down. It was controllable. They were able to control it. Her appetite went away for a little while, but then her appetite came back.
But 3 weeks after the transplant, trouble. The new bone marrow cells are not replacing Infinity's disease cells. The transplant is failing.
The first major milestone was at day 21 when we checked the bone marrow function, and the bone marrow was clearly, you know, only a minor aspect was donor.
They weren't finding any engraftment, and well, just from hearing about it with other cases, that they usually see some type of engraftment, even if it's not a lot, it's in there somewhere. And I kind of seen it right there, that if it wasn't there in the preliminary testing, then it might not show up.
When it was clear that the transplant did not work, what did you tell Stephanie?
Well, we sat down in the room and I said that we looked at the bone marrow and the blood for the donor cells, and basically all of those cells were Infinity's, which means that she has recovered her own marrow.
With the transplanted cells failing to grow, Infinity's immune system became dangerously compromised. Doctors were forced to reimplant her diseased bone marrow, leaving her with a normal immune system and sickle cell disease.
I was very hurt and upset, but I was still happy that she was fine and she wasn't in a worse position than she started. And then by the time we found the results out, she was actually getting better, and so that made things a lot easier.
Knowing what you know now, do you think this was the right decision?
Mm-hmm. Yep. anything that has to do with her health getting better is the right decision.
Neither Stephanie nor the doctors see this failure as an end. Instead, they see it as a beginning.
Okay.
There is a great deal of disappointment, when it didn't happen the way you thought it was going to happen. On the other hand, we have shown that it is safe. We didn't hurt her in any way, and I'd much rather have a child living with sickle cell disease than a child who died from a complication that I created. To me, it's been a success. But that's for me. As a parent, clearly, you want more than that.
Yeah.
3 months after her unsuccessful transplant, Infinity Duncan's battle with sickle cell has not dampened her spirit.
Yeah.
She's been through a lot. She's strong, and after everything she's been through, she can still get up and smile every day.
That kind of optimism has also helped T-Boz Watkins overcome her disease, become a rock star, and the national spokesperson for sickle cell disease.
I was told you can't dance, you can't play outside, you can't is the only thing I heard in my life. And it's like, how can I ever achieve anything or have any kind of positive outlook on life if you're telling me no, can't. I mean, there has to be something in life.
So what does she do all day?
Something more than being sick all the time. More than anything, Stephanie Duncan wants to give Infinity the chance to have a normal life. And her doctors say, despite the first disappointment, that is still possible with another transplant.
We've done the transplant. She's done well. She's no worse off than she started. And we have an option of going again. And so we're actively planning to repeat the transplant.
Have you made that decision?
Yeah.
Why?
Because she deserves another chance. I mean, it has to work the second time.
The transplant research in Minneapolis is just one example of renewed scientific interest in sickle cell disease.
Much of the research that we're doing today may not be, quote, sickle cell research, but it will have a very positive impact on sickle cell disease. The Human Genome Project, sickle cell may be one of the first diseases to have a major benefit from gene replacement, for example.
The early stages of that work have already begun. These mice at the Lawrence Laboratories in Berkeley, California, have been genetically engineered to have sickle cell disease. By studying these animals, scientists can begin to devise new gene therapy treatments, perhaps even a cure.
I think in some ways now having an animal model that very faithfully mimics the human condition, we can begin doing things with these animals in a controlled manner, testing different kinds of therapies in a controlled manner that will eventually be able to lead back to humans with the condition in a way that couldn't be done when we didn't have a system for studying the disease.
Already, scientists have begun looking at the sickled cells inside the mice to understand why they are so sticky and how they clump together, restricting blood flow and causing pain. As so often happens in scientific research, the new work on sickle cell disease is paying dividends for other diseases as well. Doctors at this sickle cell center at Grady Hospital in Atlanta, Georgia, discovered that the pain management tools they are developing for sickle cell patients work for other patients who suffer chronic pain as well.
How's your pain?
Same.
Same on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the worst?
On 6.
Out of 6. So you did get some really...
Sickle cell is a prototype of acute, horrible pain. And if we can do a good job in this level of pain, assessing it correctly and quickly, it should work the same in trauma pain, post-operative pain, cancer pain. These are all areas that could benefit from good pain assessment and good pain care. How are you feeling?
With each small scientific step, there is new hope for sickle cell patients. Stephanie and Infinity Duncan are in the eye of this scientific storm.
Do you think that you and Infinity have made a difference?
From the information that I've heard about them sharing their discoveries with other people, yeah, I do. And I think that if another child can benefit from her case, then I'm happy about that.
I think she's blazed a trail. We know something that basically was unknown, that could you do an unrelated donor transplant with this approach, would it be tolerated? And that was our primary goal, safety, for this unrelated donor.
It's probably brought me closer to my daughter. It's given me a much greater understanding of life. It's shown me how strong she is.
Stephanie says there are many lessons to be learned from Infinity's transplant experience. Lessons for all sickle cell patients and their families. The need for genetic counseling before getting pregnant, early intervention for patients, and the need to make the most of every day.
You have to treat every day like it's special. You can't treat every day like it's a tragic day or that something bad is going to happen during that day. You have to try to fulfill each day to the best of your ability with the most that you can.
In a few weeks, the experiment will continue. Infinity and her mom are anxious but hopeful.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they have a new member of their support group.
I would just tell Stephanie to stay determined and just to really keep believing, because you have to have faith in order for your prayers to work. I've learned that too.
Get an online guide to medical conditions. Connect to discovery.com/health. Now inside the hearts and minds of the skilled teams that care for sick children. Small Wonders on tomorrow's surgery, next on Discovery Health Channel.